No, I feel honoured actually because I can say I'm sat and I know a TEDx speaker.
Don't say that.
This will be nothing. This is just talking to me.
I know, absolutely. Well, it's good to be back. So this is the third podcast
I
we've
know.
done, right?
Hat trick.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're doing something right.
We must be.
But yeah, so I think we thought today maybe we could share some of the behind the scenes wiring around just public speaking, TEDx as a kind of lens on that, because I know there's quite an interest from a lot of people who you see it more common on LinkedIn, people that have landed TEDx's and the prep that sits behind that, and just people's goals in general, really, and what they want to achieve this year. It's the beginning of 2023, so
It's
people are
perfect
thinking,
timing.
yeah, exactly.
And I think everyone's kind of how common is this then? So my reaction, just loving you and loving your work and seeing that post around that you've got the opportunity to do TEDx, and my response was, that is amazing, well done, I love it. How did you do it? How do I
How do you land
have you had a
it?
lot
How
of
do
that?
you yes, a lot of people have messaged me directly saying, it's on my life plan at some point, but it's not one of those things that people really know how you get started and involved with it. And the way I got into it was I started doing some public speaking anyway at conferences and events and things like that, which I really started to enjoy. And that's definitely where I'm going to take kind of my contribution of the business going forwards. And I'd always kind of linked to TED Talks for, if we were doing delivery of leadership training, or, it's always some great Simon Sinek stuff or whatever it might be. And more, I started seeing people that were in my network doing TEDx talks. So I thought, oh, okay, that's quite interesting. So I found a guy in the States and was just chatting to him. And it turns out that there's lots of people that you can pay lots of tens of thousands of dollars to help you land a TEDx, if that's the way that you want to go. That wasn't the way that I wanted to go. But people do, because they get the coaching and they do the applications for them, and they know how to write a great TEDx application that's going to get accepted and all that kind of stuff. So his tip was, they open, so every individual TEDx area, with all around the world, there's hundreds of thousands of them. They open a window once a year, which is where the speaker applications are invited. Normally a TEDx event will be run by a licensee that's applied to TED to say, I want to run a TEDx event. There's one in Exeter, for example, that's been going for about 4 years now. And this is why I want to do it. This is why I want to bring it to Exeter. It's going to support Exeter to be on the map and local trade and all that kind of great stuff that goes with it. So they build a small team around them, and they will open speaker applications. And the key to it is to go onto the individual TEDx website for that area, so TEDx Exeter, and you can just Google that, and just subscribe to their newsletters, because the newsletters will tell you when they're opening the windows for applications. And there's normally a theme to each TEDx. So I did TEDx Scunthorpe last year, and their theme was reimagining. So I talked about reimagining curriculum and education through the digital mindset, for example. So normally the themes are wide enough for you to bring any kind of expertise into it, as long as it kind of fits that in some way. So once you kind of know when the window for application is open, and by the way, you don't have to just apply to your local TEDx, you can apply to any around the world if you really want to. I've applied to about 6 across the UK last year, and I landed 2. So that's quite a good ratio. And then that's when you go into the process. So the process would be kind of an initial Google form around what's your idea worth sharing, and why should you bring it to this TEDx, and why should we be interested, and all that kind of stuff. And then normally they ask you to do like a 4-minute video pitch of your idea, so they can see you and hear you speak and that kind of stuff. And then you might have a face-to-face interview. You might have a Google Meet interview. I think we had a Google Meet interview for Scunthorpe. And then I heard that I was successful as one of their speakers, and I was actually the first speaker up that day.
Oh, really?
So I was there to set the tone, which was nerve-wracking, but also it was great because I got mine out
Yeah.
of the way. It was done
Yeah,
then.
brilliant.
And when I walked off stage, I could see all these speakers who were sat there with these nervous looks on their face. And luckily I was like, "Phew, I've done mine.
Done.
I can relax now." So yeah, so it's a little bit hard work doing your research, and just subscribe to some of the newsletters. Um, think about how your idea worth sharing, and that has to be something that you're passionate about, and
Mm,
it has to be something that you're credible in, because if you're not, that obviously comes across.
mm,
And some of these TEDx events get like 500 applications. They get a
yeah.
lot of
Mm,
applications in, so you really have to, I guess, like applying for a job, right? You really have to grasp the attention quite quickly in the title of your talk and how you present it with the hook up front. What's your first line when they switch go on the video? And that's the reason why they want you to come and talk and stuff. So it's got a little bit of influencing kind of business development skills in
yeah.
there as well. So
How long
yeah.
was it from um so did you have the idea first? So you thought this was obviously a goal, and
Yep.
then you thought, right, here's my idea.
Yeah.
I'm now gonna do my research, and I've got this way of looking for um TEDx's that are relevant, because I'm assuming it's you don't have a, or do you have a connection to Scunthorpe, or is it just that was the one?
Yeah, I mean, I stalked the TEDx licensees on LinkedIn a little bit to see what kind of people they were at, and I made contact to say, "Hey, this is me. I'm thinking of applying, so just put my name in front of you just to
Nice, clever.
recognize
Yeah, I
it."
like it.
So
Yeah.
again, that's the kind of influencing
Mm,
thing that I'm talking about. And ultimately they come back and say, "Great, looking forward to seeing your application." There's probably lots of people that do that as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so there wasn't a personal connection for me to Scunthorpe, but I like the reimagining theme,
Yeah, that's
and I
nice.
like the people who were involved in it as well. And there is an element of, it is an element of numbers game to a degree as well, because
Mm.
inevitably the more you apply for, the more likely you are to get your application in front of someone who's interested. So
And that how long did that process take?
gosh, so I probably started applying. I think I saw they used to be called Time Hop. Are they memories now on Facebook when it comes up this time last year? Back in the day, I don't log on
Yeah.
to Facebook too much these days, but I think it was something like February, March time last year that I put a status on Facebook or LinkedIn saying, right, now I'm going to start applying for TEDx's Wish Me Luck.
Oh, I love it.
So
Yeah, get it out there.
yeah, it's like manifesting with the universe,
Yeah.
isn't it? If I
Yeah.
say it and share it, then it's more likely to happen. So, and I believe that with goals, any kind of goals
Well,
anyway.
affirmations, right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
Mm,
totally. People think it's a bit
mm.
cheesy, but I think it really
No.
helps your own commitment. So yeah, so
Everyone
probably
everyone thinks it's cheesy until they try it. Because I think I look back from some of the actually, if you follow it from the time as me and you have spoken,
mm-hmm.
that kind of just starting to do an affirmation, and once you get over the embarrassment of saying something out loud, even if it's just to your, well, mainly it is to yourself, right? All of
Yes,
a sudden things start to happen,
so
and
true.
that's when you hear people that go, oh yeah, I wanted to affirm that I could have the bravery to just go for it myself, and that there would be enough interest and backing in the podcast, and that I could do
Yeah.
this. Guess what? Here I am. And you listen to people that go, oh, I used affirmations, and it's not that that's led to something, but it's a common thread for everyone that has, that is certainly a lot of people that I've listened to. Anyway, I digress.
No, but I think you're spot on, because there's an element of, yes, you're telling yourself, so you're more
Mm,
committed to it and out there. I also firmly believe that the kind of fake it till you make it type methodology as well. So if you tell people, and maybe I'm giving my kind of deepest, darkest secret away here, if you tell people you're good at something and you believe that, other people are going to believe it. So
yeah.
when you started talking about Get Out a Rap, you talked about it with real passion and a real belief.
Mm,
So other people had
mm,
belief in it as well. So other
yeah.
people get on board, and you haven't quite figured it out yet, and you don't know what it looks like, but you've got the end in mind. And so I think that's all part of that as well.
Yeah,
And it's the right people getting on the bus with you as well, isn't it?
definitely. So you put it out there, February. March.
Yep.
Um,
So I went through the
and then
application process, and then I
yeah,
found out August, maybe, because
is
they've
the
obviously got.
application process then? You said it's documents, video.
Yep.
Are they all the same, regardless of where
No,
they might be
each
different? Are they?
TEDx licensee will run it slightly different, but I think TED in general, who issues the licenses, will give them kind of a rough idea of what they
Yeah.
think those application processes. Some might have a face-to-face event, some, for a part of an interview type process, some might not. I didn't for mine, which is a good idea because Devon to Scunthorpe's like 5 hours, right? They did it all virtually.
Commitment.
I would have gone, don't get me
Yeah, of
wrong.
course. Yeah.
But it saved me a lot of driving time and electric miles for not having to drive up and down to Scunthorpe. But I think we're in a post-pandemic world now that we know that the virtual option is just as good as, so we don't need to
Yeah.
worry about that stuff so much now. But yeah,
Where
I've
were
seen.
where were you when you found out?
I was in my car. I'd pulled over at a Starbucks, I was going to say at a Scunthorpe, at a Starbucks, and I checked my emails, and the email had come through. Congratulations, you've been selected as a speaker. And I was like, oh my god! And then I screenshot it and sent it to loads of people.
Yeah, brilliant.
And it didn't quite sink in. And then I was like, oh my god, now I've got to like put the hard yards in, and I've got to get dog care sorted for that weekend, and I've got you go into like practical.
Yeah.
But I have never, other than thinking about perhaps exams at school and university, I haven't put myself under that much pressure to get something so right in such a long period of time. And that says a lot about my personality. I do put a lot of pressure on myself because I want to be the best. I don't want to miss up. But every weekend was writing it, rewriting it, saying it, recording it, doing it audio on my phone, walking the dogs, listening back to it. Poor Haley, my business partner, must have heard it about 16, 17 times, help me edit it, because I tend to write very conversationally anyway, which helps. But I tend to be a bit too clever and try and put big words in when I can put smaller words in. But that trips you up when you're speaking, particularly when you need to be scripted. So I learned a lot about myself just in that kind of 6-month period. And it's funny, you go through a typical, I love this, I hate this, I love this, I hate this, because you go past all the excitement of, oh, I'm doing TEDx and I've got a great script, and then you have to learn the script word for word. And that's the kind of, oh my God, it's Sunday afternoon and I'm trying to practice my script again. And you end up completely falling out of love with it. But you have to stick with it. You have to do the hard yards, because then on the day, you stand up in front of all those people and that's your idea worth sharing. And it's, I tripped over a couple of times and it's not perfect, but I'm human, and they want to hear the idea and the passion and the credibility. They don't want to hear a robot, So
you had 6 months.
Yeah.
From hearing to delivering. How long are you talking for?
It should have been 14 minutes. Can't remember now, 12 or 14 minutes. I think I missed a chunk out of it, so I think it came in at about 10 minutes on the day. But of course, nobody knows that I've missed a chunk. Only I know that I've missed a chunk.
Well, you've just told people.
Well, I've just told the world that I missed a chunk out of my TEDx. It was fine and it landed well, and I'm looking forward to the recording.
I want to take you through the day because I'm loving this. So how many words is that then in your?
Oh God.
Even
I can't tell you words, but it was about 5.5 pages of A4 typed.
Wow, yeah. And then do you have to provide all of that to the organisers way in advance? Or?
You don't have to give them the script. And actually, the Scunthorpe guys were pretty laid back about this, actually, because from what I hear, some other TEDx licenses are a bit more like you have to submit the script and it has to be signed off and it has to be word for word. And whereas I think the Scunthorpe guys were more interested in the passion and the delivery, which I think is probably the right thing to do rather than like getting it right word for word. Because I fell into that trap of, I've got to know this word for word and it's got to be this and it's got to be that. And then that's when I fell out of love with it, really. And a few people said to me, no one's going to know. It's
Yeah.
just it's your idea. Just deliver it in the Erica way that we know. That's why
Yeah.
we've asked you to come and talk. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a basic revelation. But I'm so glad somebody said that to me, you know, because it moved
Mm.
my thinking forward. So yeah.
And you, what about the visuals and things? Did you have, what was the setup? Oh, I have too many questions. Sorry.
Do you want, okay, the setup. So it was at John Leggett College in Scunthorpe. And they had just invested about £175,000 in this massive 180 immersive screen.
Wow.
It was like this. It was like what's the cinema, big curved cinema screen that they used to have, IMAX. It was like a small
Yes.
IMAX, yeah. So that was pretty cool. So we had all this rigging with these lights and everything, and you could choose whether you wanted visuals or not. I chose to have visuals because it's kind of how I talk, and
Mm.
a lot of our methodology around, you know, supporting the storytelling and all that stuff. Anyway, some people didn't have visuals. Some people just stood there on the red dot and kind of gave their story. So there was lots of thinking around the right visuals and the right this and the right that. Typically, I first up, I clicked on from my face onto my first visual, and there was a massive delay. Of course, I'm like first up on. I'm thinking I don't want to talk too far on because I'm going to miss the visual. Luckily, it came up in the end. But yeah, it's. I mean, again, from what I hear, some TEDx's say no slides and no visuals. It's just you
Mm.
and your idea. Some are a little bit more flexible in terms of, you know, it's up to you what you bring and how you do it. So. And I got up on the stage in front of everybody in the college, in this big immersive room that they had, which was pretty awesome. And yeah, I talked for about 10.5 minutes. And then I got a round of applause, and then I walked off. And then yeah, it was
Yeah.
amazing. It was amazing. And then I had the biggest sense of relief, as you can imagine. And went and sat down and had a coffee, and then just and went, oh my God, I've done it. So, and I had my best friend come with me to Scunthorpe for the weekend, which was brilliant because I came off and she was sat in the crowd, and there was a speaker area over here. And I didn't check my phone for about half an hour afterwards. And I went to check my phone, and I had a text message or a WhatsApp message from her saying, you effing smashed it. And I was like, thank
Yes.
God for that. You know, that's exactly what
Yeah.
I needed. So
Oh, it's brilliant. And you, I
yeah.
saw as well that you do like a rehearsal as well. You're up there like were you the day
Yeah.
before?
It was the Sunday before, the weekend before. Just yeah, so I actually virtualed in. I didn't go up to Scunthorpe for that because a lot of them were local to Scunthorpe, so
Mm.
they came in and did like yeah, just a basic run through really before to make
Mm.
sure everything worked. And so that was nice just to say it through in front of people that weren't my business partner and people that I knew to kind of test run it. And like, yeah, and that landed really nicely as well. So that gave us the confidence to go and do it real time then. So
And this is something that you would recommend for people to do if they've got that kind of
100%,
inclination.
100% for a couple of reasons. I think it's a good stretch for anybody to do an
Mm.
activity like that, particularly if you're somebody who is particularly passionate about a subject that you want to share, because that is the ethos of TED, right? It's
Mm.
all about creating a movement based on your idea worth sharing. And you have to write your script in that way that kind of takes that TED, here's the problem, this is what we could
Yeah.
do to fix the problem, here's some evidence that sits behind that, and then let's work up to our solution, and this is why you should come with me on the journey. So
Mm.
that's what all good TED Talks kind of follow. And you can do reading around this, there's books and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, so I think that kind of just challenging yourself to do something like that, yes, absolutely. If you are involved in content creation, speaking, facilitation, training, whatever it might be, it's also a real quality stamp on your
Mm.
delivery and your personal
Yeah.
brand and all
Yeah.
that kind of great stuff as well. I've had loads of engagement off the back of it. And you know, I know we've had some amazing photos taken, which whenever I put them up on LinkedIn, I get hundreds of likes and comments, and
Yeah.
everybody is so supportive and oh yeah, amazing, can't wait to see it, you look incredible, you look really confident, it looks awesome, you know. So just that kind of ego stroking.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I was already a fan before, but now I'm even more of a fan.
I just, it's a quality stamp, I think, isn't it, for a lot of people
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, I would absolutely recommend it. But it's like anything. What you see is the fact I've gone on to TEDx and I've done a talk, and you'll see the recording hopefully soon. But it is all of that hard work that builds up to that. It's the Sunday afternoons writing and practicing.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
Saturday mornings doing your applications online and recording your
Mm.
videos. And like anything good, it's about the prep and the work beforehand, really, isn't it? So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
What was then, so if the theme is reimagining, what was the, if that journey that you said then that you follow, what was the problem kind of
Yeah.
statement that you started with?
Yeah. So my talk was about how we can effectively reimagine the educational system through the digital first mindset. So I was talking about the fact I started with a little story of a little girl called Isla who goes to this amazing digital school, and she's whisked off to different planets with her virtual reality headset, and she gets great one-to-one tutoring from her teacher, and her homework is personalized and adaptive based on her own requirements. And then I kind of drop the ball and say, that's not really Isla's experience at all. This is Isla's experience. She's in a
Yeah.
classroom with 35 other children, and
Mm.
she doesn't get the
Mm.
teacher's attention. And so these are the reasons
Yeah.
why we should adopt digital tech and learning methodologies in the classroom and in adult learning as well. And then I talk about some research that from the World Economic Forum around global financial impact of great online learning, and all that, because I back up my argument to
Mm.
why in an educational space we really need to start giving teachers the skills and the confidence to be able to deliver learning in this way. If you think about it, 65% of kids who are aged between 5 and 11, so in school right now, so that's 2/3 of those kids, will go into a job that doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah.
And we're still
Yeah.
teaching maths and English and
Bonkers, isn't it?
algebra, and
Mm.
it's just crazy.
Mm.
So we should be using this tech that's going to be already out of date by the time they go into the workplace. So
Mm.
we're already kind of double behind on a lot of stuff,
Mm.
let alone mindset and confidence. And we know employers are already looking for robotics and automation and
Yeah.
AI, and so why aren't
Yeah.
we teaching that stuff? Why are
Mm.
we waiting
Mm.
for apprenticeship providers or leading employers to start picking up that kind of training when we're missing generations going through schools that
Mm.
are going to be left behind? So
Or waiting until they're in further education and then say, right, the previous 7, 8 years that you've done, just forget about that.
well,
Because now
indeed,
now we're
right?
going to do now we're going to do the now we're going to do the real stuff. Do you think
Yeah,
just thinking about this before, one of the things that struck me was the the pandemic, even if you're talking about the content, but and I completely agree, by the way, but if you forget the content and think about the delivery, the pandemic forced the delivery methodology to be more
absolutely.
up to date, right? And
Yeah,
we had 3 girls in the front room, and that I loved it, actually, just to be able to kind of get closer to the classroom and what was going on.
yeah,
And this is going to sound trite, I guess, in comparison to what you're talking about, but just as an example, parents' evenings suddenly became amazing because you didn't have to not you couldn't find a parking spot.
yeah,
It's chaos when you go into the school. You're wandering around. It's noisy. You get limited time. You
yeah,
come away. You don't really you can't really remember unless you've been taking notes. Compare that to what happened in the pandemic. Schools were forced to do it online. You're
absolutely.
taken into Zoom Teams meetings. You could have a little timer, tells you how long's left.
Yeah,
You're then taken into the next one. You can sit in your home, job done, take notes. It was so much better. And it's
yeah,
been really disappointing to see now we've just reverted back to, right, you've got to come to the school. Why?
yeah,
Why? When it's quantifiably worse? I
yeah,
just don't get it. And that's
yeah.
just the delivery, not even thinking about your story there. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? We've got access to all of this amazing technology where you could say, hey, rather than looking at a picture of the solar system, do you want to fly around it?
Absolutely. Can you imagine? Let's go through the rings of Saturn. Do you know what I mean? How awesome would
Yeah.
that be? Let's land on Mars, where
Yeah.
humans are going to be in 2030 or whatever. So you're absolutely right. And there is that element, you're 100% right. There is that element of, this isn't about tech and innovation. This is about learning practitioner and educational practitioner confidence in delivering pedagogy and delivering teaching and learning in this way. And I was talking at a university conference in November where it was predominantly universities delivering apprenticeships. So work-based learning as well as academia, and they're very much at the start of that journey around, actually, we know online can be just as good, if not better, than sitting in a lecture hall with 30 other people, with someone just trying to pump information at you that you're never really going to retain all of it. So we know the science, like you said, and the evidence-based practice that sits behind it is better. So why are some educational establishments pinging back? It's confidence, it's mindset. That's where we need to get in with this stuff, and then give them the practical tools and techniques to be able to teach online or do parents' evenings online or whatever it might be. Don't get me wrong, there's some great universities. I had a couple of universities reach out to me recently saying, love what you talk about. How do we make that a reality? So there is great aspiration out there with people who have the right mindset. And that for me is where it comes down to. So, and this is why I was talking about the digital first mindset. So in my TEDx talk, I say, this isn't a crazy conceptual weird thing out there that only some of us get. This is like, your washing machine breaks down. You don't go and phone a washing machine engineer. We might do. Most of us check the error code and then Google it. And it tells you, turn it off at the mains and turn it back on, and it will reset itself, rather than paying 50 quid for an engineer. So that Googling the answer or YouTubing the video, that is what we call the digital first mindset. We don't go to a 2-day training program when we get an update on our iPhone. We just have a go and we YouTube some stuff. So this isn't like some weird, crazy thing that's out there. We're already doing this stuff. Let's just be more conscious about it when it comes to education and learning. So
it's so true, because I got a monitor stand, and rather than read the 20-page booklet in tiny writing, I just thought, well, someone has put this together and YouTubed it. Surprise, surprise, they had just followed it.
Same. I bought a Smeg coffee machine a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't come with instructions. It comes with the 2-minute video. It's just the way the world is now. And I know there's generational challenges around this. And when I look at kind of what my best friends' kids do, who are like 4, 5, 6, 7, they blow my mind in some of the stuff they talk about. So again, this stuff's already moved on. I'm geriatric compared to these guys. But we need to, if we're going to genuinely set our kids up for success for the future, for those kind of 2 out of 3 kids that are going to go into a job that doesn't exist yet, we can't just expect them to rock up and be digital natives and it's okay, they're going to take care of everything. We need to do our bit as well. And that's what the talk was about, really. And what I summarize is comparing a racehorse against a donkey. They've both got 4 legs, they both come from the same genome, and they both, all the rest of it. But if you put Eeyore up against the racehorse in the Cheltenham Gold Cup, it's not going to be very fair, really. Eeyore probably won't get very far, whereas the racehorse will get there within a couple of minutes. But we're still banking on Eeyore to be able to do the race, and we need to shift our mindset to the racehorse, really.
I love that. So that was your, after the problem and Isla. And then do you then start to talk about this isn't, like you said, it's not conceptual, it's here and now.
Yeah.
And here's
absolutely. So here's the example. So I talk about the washing machine. I talk about getting the flat pack furniture and not having instructions. I talk about, pulling into a car park and the only way that you can pay is an app on your phone, and you don't have any change. It's just small things like that we're already living with. It's just making conscious decisions on how we take that, living in 2023, and actually how do we take some of that mechanism and put that consciously into design and delivery of education and learning. And we're already doing stuff like that now. So we know, just example like your parents' evening example, we know now that you design delivery online differently to how you do in the classroom historically. It's a different mindset. So we need to consciously make that decision that we're going to do it in this way. We're not going to have lots of conversations and stick people in breakout rooms and think that that's going to do the job, because it's not. We need to build in e-learning and asynchronous learning with engagement and interaction and scenario-based learning, so people can critically think about what they would do in that situation rather than just testing me on a bunch of legislation that I'm never going to look at again. So let's just be really conscious about how we do this stuff. We don't need to blow people's minds. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, for another cliche, but we're not trying to put people on Mars. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
But let's just kind of do our bit for the generations that are going to need us to do that bit right now, so we can do what we can to support them when they are going to go into those jobs of the future, or those apprenticeships, or that learning, or whatever that might be. So,
and surely all these the digital realm means that you're more respectful of the learner or the recipient, because it's more efficient. They should be in a better frame of mind, and then it's all about the content, as opposed to recognizing that, again, going back to that parents' evening analogy, by the time I've come to sit opposite the teacher, my stress levels are going to be higher than if I've just logged in.
You're flustered, you're late. Yeah, exactly. 100%. And this is the shift between, and we're seeing this a lot in universities, this gap. This is the shift between being tutor focused, lecturer, professor, trainer, whatever you want to call it, and learner focused. They are two very different things. So the school that you're talking about, are they really focused on your experience and the student experience, or are they focused on the teacher experience? It sounds like it's the teacher experience rather than maybe a bit of both, you could argue. But, we are here. Our ultimate aim is that learner, attendee, delegate, whatever you want to call that person, goes and does something different off the back of what we've done. Our aim isn't to deliver content, and then it stops, and then it's your responsibility to do what you want to do with it. Good luck. So we need to make that shift really of, how do I facilitate that learning so that learner goes and does something rather than just teach? And that's the change that we need to start thinking about and making. And, I've given the universities a bit of a hard time on this session today, but there's people who genuinely want to make that step. And actually there's some that don't. There's a lot of professors who are there and lecturers who are there because they want to be published academics. That's their drive. And they have to do some teaching on the side. But they're not bothered about the teaching. They just have to do it to make up the hours.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're not genuinely passionate about what you do or the goals that you want to achieve, whatever that might be, then don't do it. Don't do it half-assed. If you want to do it, then bloody well do it and put everything behind it, because no one's going to do it for you, right? This magic unicorn's not going to turn up that you can just jump on the back and everything's going to be great and there's going to be a shiny rainbow at the end of it. Life doesn't work that way.
Yes, so. It does.
We have to consciously make the decisions that are going to steer us to where we want to be. So.
What was the finale? How did you is there a call to action? Is it recommended that there's something else that people can?
Absolutely. You need to leave the audience with I want to go and learn a bit more about that, or I want to go and have a conversation with that person, or whatever that might be. And I think my wrapping up was that kind of space of, it's no longer good enough to just do what we currently do. It's no longer good enough to just expect the next generation to pick up the pieces. What we need to step up to that digital plate now and provide them with the support to do that, whether you're a teacher, a parent, a governor, a trainer, whoever that might be. This is a call to action for you. So you have to leave them on that. Bang, let's go. Let's get this movement going. So
I love it. So and the video of that, they're gonna publish that. When is that coming out?
It all goes to TED officially for their people to watch all of them. If you think about this, hundreds of these each day being filmed around the world. So it obviously has to go to TED to make sure there's no political commentary. I'm not trying to sell my business on it. He adheres to TED's rules. So I've been told back end of this month that it should go
Nice.
live on the TED YouTube channel, TEDx YouTube channel. We've signed kind of speaker release forms, which means they own the content. So I can share the content, but I can't kind of take down the video and do what I want to do with it because I don't own it. TEDx owns it. The really, really good ones get selected to go on TED.com. So that's the ultimate aim, really, is that, you know, most people get on the YouTube channel, but it's like, are you good enough to actually get on TED.com? So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, that would be great, wouldn't it?
It'd be
And
amazing.
you said you got accepted for 2. Does that mean there's another one? You're doing another one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was accepted for Scunthorpe and I was accepted for Doncaster. The Doncaster event I was accepted for was going to run last year, but it's now moved to this year, which is, in reflection, is I'm glad, because I put myself under enough stress for 1 TEDx, let alone 2. Plus, I was filming for LinkedIn Learning as well, so that was another thing going on at the time. I don't do things by half. So October is the TEDx event in Doncaster. So I'm just kind of figuring out where they are with themes and all that kind of stuff at the moment, because I might need to change my original idea for this one. So
not content with TEDx, you're doing LinkedIn Learning.
I've just filmed a course for LinkedIn Learning as well.
Wow.
So I did that. I filmed that 19th, 20th and 21st of December. So that should be coming out in March. And that's about management development and learning agility. So that kind of skill that our teams are going to need to be able to learn very quickly and apply very quickly and change tact very quickly to be able to support organizations to maintain competitive edge in a difficult world. So so I've been working with LinkedIn Learning.
How did that come about?
So once again, I stalked the right people on LinkedIn, which I'm quite good at. And I a message or two later, like there's LinkedIn producers and content creators and people for LinkedIn Learning Online. And they're always looking at like who's in the market, who's doing instruction and teaching and facilitation and stuff like that. So again, massive process to get through with those, because they work with like the Simon Sinek's of the world, right? And, you know, these kind of guys. So had to do a one-to-one interview, and then I had to film a micro teach, and then I had to write a pitch script, and then I had to write what the names of, like, because, you know, the chapters and LinkedIn Learning, they're like, you know, about 15 mini videos, aren't they? So what each of those, so each of this stage goes back to LinkedIn Learning for a committee sign off and feedback and all this kind of stuff. And we got to an amazing space where they're like, yeah, love the course, love the titles, love how you deliver. They gave me a little bit of feedback about my delivery, which was really helpful as well, because it needs to appeal to a global audience, right? So in terms of your nuances, you can't be very British in terms of some of the words and phrases that you might use. You've got to be more American in that space. So that was pretty cool. And then I had a load of filming equipment arrive in my front room in December. Prior to pandemic, they were flying all the instructors over to the States to the LinkedIn Learning campus.
Damn it.
They might, I know. I was just happy enough just doing stuff in my front room. And then so I had 3 producers online with me when I was reading all my scripts off a teleprompter, which was exhausting over 2 days, because you have to be like, hi, my name's That's hard work. I had a producer from the States online and 2 producers from the UK online. No, stop that, reread that, redo that bit. Yeah, that's to get, got that in the bag. So that comes out in March. So
brilliant. That's amazing.
So everything seemed to happen at the end of the year. Yeah, they came and got it and packed it all up and everything. But it was, proper cameras and, you know, LED light bulbs, that they were replacing all the light bulbs in my front room with like these proper lighting light bulbs and all this kind of stuff. So proper setup. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'll tag you on LinkedIn. There's a couple of pictures on there, so I'll tag you so you can have a look. So...
Yes, please. And this is all from your goal setting, isn't it? This is all 100%. From you just going, this is what I've got to have these goals.
100%. So my 3 goals were land a TEDx talk. I got 2. Do a LinkedIn Learning course and lose some weight. So so
all 3.
I've done all 3. Yeah. So now I'm like, what am I going to do this year? maybe I might give myself like a few months off, who knows, but that's not in my nature, to be honest.
No, even as you said that, you were qualifying it yourself, weren't you?
Yeah, I know. It's just sometimes it's like it's going after all this stuff and giving yourself like these goals and things is amazing, but it's very easy to overstretch yourself sometimes and not give yourself enough time and headspace. And I don't have a family to deal with and to manage and all the rest of it. So I've got time on my own to be in my head and do the prep work. It takes a lot, this stuff. So if you are thinking about doing a LinkedIn Learning course or a TEDx or something like that, just be really sensible in terms of assessing what is your free time and how much energy and mind space can you put into something, because there's nothing stopping you doing that if you've got any kind of commitments or obligations, but it just takes a lot of time and effort. So I've probably been guilty of overstretching myself at times, but again, that's just in my nature, really. So push it hard, push it hard, push it harder. What else can we do? Crazy.
But it's been illuminating to, and so informative just to hear that kind of the process. And it's a glib cliche, but the journey behind TEDx, and that hearing from you and seeing the passion, but also understanding the sheer amount of work that that goes into it. Because I imagine there's a lot of people that when you were talking earlier on were thinking, I wonder what my title would be.
What's my idea worth sharing? Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you've got to pin down first, is be really clear on that, and how much do you believe in that? Because if you don't, you won't buy into it. You won't want to do the Sunday afternoon script writing and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Well, Erica, we're gonna definitely have to do another one. I mean, and you're partly responsible for the fact that I sit here as a self-employed person heading into the year. We should have recorded those conversations.
Yeah, well, maybe let's do some. Maybe I'll interview you on the next one, and you can talk about your journey, because I think people would be really interested in that. Particularly now you've made that step from employed to self-employed, you're going through that journey, which, as you know, a lot of people consider. Not everybody takes that step because it is a bit daunting and a bit scary. It's probably one of the biggest decisions I ever made. So maybe let's turn the tables. Let's flip it next time.
Yeah. But Erica Farmer, TEDx speaker, Quantum Rise, LinkedIn learner, thank you so much for coming on again. You're awesome.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.